So I'm chatting to Sean Obedih, who's the founder of NewGenAngels. Sean is going to talk to us about angel investing and the state of angel investing in the context of Africa. Hi, Sean.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining me. So let's first deal with NewGenAngels. It's a global network, from what I've heard, but it strictly focuses on investing in businesses in Africa. So can you tell me a little bit about the motivation behind establishing NewGenAngels and what the motivation was behind starting NewGenAngel and what kind of business you're at this organization are trying to support?
Right. So, as you perfectly said, NewGenAngels is basically an angel network of people and companies that are looking to invest in early stage companies in Africa that are Africa focused. You don't have to be based in Africa, but it had to be Africa focused. So maybe in the UK or US or Australia or whatever, and you want to move and focus on African opportunities. And that's where we came from. And the whole notion behind that is, if you think about the big shift that's going on that has been going on for a while, but the people are kind of moving from diaspora going back into Africa to start companies. We can see that by the likes of Iroko, by the likes of many other companies that have been started by the people that actually returned from the diaspora. And what tends to happen is, when you kind of come back, let's say you come back to London, you come back to Paris or wherever you were living, and you're trying to raise money for a company that you're running in Africa, most investors basically don't want to touch those kind of businesses, especially early stage investors, i.e. angels. So for me, I was involved in that circle for, since 2011. And I basically noticed that I was getting companies approaching me for helping with get them funded. And I noticed quite clearly that there was a big gap in terms of the infrastructure required to fund these companies. Let me just break that down. If you look at the way things work in a kind of developed market, you have family and friends, angel investors, you have VC firms that are kind of specifically dealing with various series of funding. So the companies are focused on Series A, Series B, Series C, and so on and so forth. And then you have the bigger ones who are kind of coming in at larger tickets. And as a company grows, you have to basically move from one phase to the next. Now, if you're an African company, there is no family money at your disposal, you're actually not going to get it done. So angel investing as a sport in Africa is still very, very early, because people are still investing in government bonds and cars and houses and land, which is great. But there is a need for funding companies, and that structure is what we're kind of really trying to help and kickstart a movement.
Some people might still be unconvinced by the notion of angel investing. What do you say to that reluctance or hesitation?
I think that's quite reasonable, because once again, if you look at the history of angel investing in Africa, it's still a novelty in terms of what I'm saying is technology angel investing. People have invested in other sectors before, but the notion of investing in early stage companies as an angel investor professionally, that's still kind of really, it's only in the last 5-10 years that things kind of started moving. And those early movers that started investing in companies, whether in South Africa, whether it's Nigeria, whether it's even up in Egypt, those are now reaping the rewards of those early kind of investments. So some people are not starting to notice that some things are happening, but I don't think that the fact that people don't know about it is a big issue. For me, I think it's a big opportunity to basically explain and educate people on what's going on, the returns that people can get from investing in early stage companies, but also the impact that they can have in their local communities.
I mean, even though angel investing is still it's still at an early stage.
Yes.
That's funny. In Africa, because you invest in early stage companies. Anyway, even though it itself is in an early stage, there has been an established platform for angel investors to get together. I mean, earlier this year in March, the first ever Africa Business Angel Forum took place. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened and what the outcome of that forum was? So first of all, what went into the establishment? What was the catalyst for the establishment of the forum. What happened at this inaugural event, and what was the outcome?
So what happened? So the Africa Business Angel Forum is basically a flagship event for early stage investing in Africa. And we held that in London. And the whole point was to basically, once again, mobilize funding into early stage companies. So if you look at most of the events that happen here in London, they're all about private equity and the wonderful large ticket stuff. But the language is just all above it kind of goes above your head. So I really wanted to have something that's tangible, something that of people that speak normal languages, and also really bring people together that I've been working with for the last 2-3 years that are really in this space and doing some real stuff. In terms of the outcome, we had that great panel on corporate venture capital. There's actually going to be a report coming out this summer with one of the large telcos that looking at what telcos are doing across Africa and how corporate venture capital can be a great source of funding for most African startups. Then there is also the 2 funds that were pretty much previously unknown and were announced on the day. And one was a $10 million fund for agricultural kind of fund companies based in France. And there's another one based in the US, which was a $50 million fund. So overall, basically, we once again, we achieved our goal of trying to mobilize funding for African opportunities, but also mostly for me, the biggest impact was the connections that were made on the day. And we've already started to see some of the fruits from that day. So we're going to hold it again in September, second week of September, to really kind of wrap up what has happened so far since January up until September, and actually what we can then also set the tone for next year. But yeah, so quite encouraging outcome.
So when an angel investor is looking to invest, I mean, I know, it's possible that you are presented with many options because there's so many ideas out there. So what is it that an angel investor looks to back, especially within a context like Africa?
I mean, we have to remember that Africa is a big place. So what may work in Cairo does not work in Cape Town, or does not work in Nairobi or Kigali or Douala or whatever. But I think just generally, when you look at the kind of companies that are applying or the kind of space that really focus on, personally, we tend to see, or kind of our investors want to see things that are much more, things that have kind of gained traction. So I'll give you an example. Let's say if you have a company and you already kind of managed to build a prototype, you have a few customers, and you're actually starting to scale beyond your borders. That's still an early stage investment to someone. So you may be looking for 250,000, but that's very small ticket to someone. So if you can basically go ahead, build some sort of traction, build a following, build a brand, make the initial mistakes. If you can get the initial, the initial early stage investment, or just bootstrap the whole thing yourself, that's great because that shows effort. And then you can get angel investors who come in to help you accelerate that to the next phase, build a proper infrastructure around you, have some kind of be able to recruit a proper board around you, and be able to build a professional team around you to actually scale that product. So those are the things we actually tend to look for.
I'm asking this question especially because I'm curious about what makes angel investing in Africa unique or different from angel investing wherever else. So I'm curious about what measures are taken to ensure that when capital comes in, when you back the business, that this business is good for Africa, that it will make a difference. Do you have an opinion on that, or am I making sense?
You're perfectly making sense, but I think angel investing is the same everywhere because you're looking to back very early stage companies, and you're looking to basically help them to ride the wave of whatever trend they're actually trying to kind of innovate around. So when it comes to Africa, we just have to look at different business models that are unique to Africa. Some of the business cases they have to make for some local issues that we can't find anywhere else, whether it's using drone to transport blood, or whether it's using AI to do certain things. There's great opportunities in terms of how can we leverage the new technologies that are coming up to solve local problems. I mean, everybody keeps talking about M-Pesa and how it has kind of innovated the mobile money space. But I think there are much more bigger, better innovations to come out of Africa, simply because we have unique challenges. And entrepreneurs are there to solve problems. And unique challenges are great because it gives you a different point of view. If you are in South Africa, or if you are in Kenya, if you're in whatever part of Africa you are in, there are things you're going to come across that your counterparts in the US won't have even to think about. So those are the opportunities to kind of innovate around and create companies around that, instead of having to just see something being done in the US and just copy it because you think it's a great way to make money. And I think that's one thing we need to encourage in our young people who are kind of creating, to be brave enough to, once again, embrace some of the challenges we have back at home, to build companies that are kind of uniquely solving those problems. Because I've seen, Western investors are looking for unique solutions that can be scalable beyond African borders. And, there's quite a few of those, from Egypt. There's a company called Instabag from Egypt I like so much. Check it out. It was recently actually funded by Excel. There are quite a few, as I'm sure you've seen, South African companies have also kind of been acquired by international companies. That's because we have unique challenges. We're able to use technology in a different way. And another company that I can also mention perhaps in this case is a company called Margems, backed by a great South African angel investor called Pule, who runs CRE Ventures. So they are great companies that are coming out of Africa, just because people are now starting to kind of look within and solving problems that are there. But yeah, sorry, drop long.
No, it's not a problem. And I just one last question, and I know that somebody would kill me if I didn't ask this, but how can people who would be interested in learning more about angel investing, or even are considering becoming an angel themselves, how do they learn more about? I know we're speaking to the diaspora right now, but how can listeners learn more about NewGenAngels or get in touch with NewGenAngels?
We have a website, which is www.newgenangels.com. Also tend to use social media quite a bit, really. Once again, just focus on the content. So you can follow us on Twitter. We have a Medium page as well, where we publish some of the posts and thoughts on angel investing. And I'm always happy to respond to anybody, whether it's Twitter or via email.
Thanks. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Sean, that I maybe have not touched on?
Well, people should be reading some of the articles we've done with iAfrica. So,
of course,
yeah.
And people can follow Sean on Twitter. You can follow him at @sobedih. That's OBEDIH. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you very much, and keep up the good work.